The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive silver bowl turned upside down. Thousands of seats rose in circles around the center floor, filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that human eyes struggled to understand their shapes. Crystals that spoke with musical voices sat next to creatures made of living metal. Gas beings floated in special containers while rock-like aliens shifted slowly in their heavy chairs. Commander Hyunwoo stood in the center of it all, looking very small and very human. His black hair was neat, his uniform simple and clean. Next to the towering aliens around him, he looked like a child among giants. But his dark eyes were calm as he watched the chaos unfold around him. The meeting had started well enough. Earth had sent its best diplomats to ask for membership in the council. They had prepared speeches about human achievements, about their desire for peace, about what they could offer to the galactic community. Hyunwoo had practiced his presentation for weeks. None of that mattered now. The trouble started when Ambassador Kresh of the Braktar delegation stood up. The Braktar were huge creatures built like walking tanks. Kresh had 4 massive arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin looked like black armor, and his eyes glowed red in his skull-like face. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the hall like thunder. "This is a waste of time," Kresh declared, pointing one of his 4 hands at Hyunwoo. "Look at this creature. It is weak, it is small, it has no claws, no natural armor, no poison, no fire breath. How can such a pathetic being represent a species worthy of council membership?" Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Others whispered among themselves. Hyunwoo felt their eyes on him, judging, measuring, finding him lacking. So young, the Earth diplomatic attaché stepped closer to Hyunwoo. She was younger than him, with short black hair and worried eyes. "Commander," she whispered urgently, "perhaps we should request time to prepare a better demonstration of human capabilities." But before Hyunwoo could answer, another voice joined the conversation. This one was beautiful, like singing crystal. It came from Lady Vex of the Velnari, beings who looked like living glass sculptures. Her transparent body caught the light of the hall and threw rainbows across the walls. "The Braktar speak truth, though they lack grace in saying it," Lady Vex said, her musical voice carrying easily through the great space. "Every species in this council has proven their strength. The Thakmor can survive in the hearts of stars. The Zephyrians can manipulate gravity with their minds. The Corvan Empire conquered 12 systems with nothing but their natural abilities." She gestured toward Hyunwoo with one crystal hand. "But what do humans have? They build machines to fly because they cannot fly themselves. They create weapons because they are too weak to fight with tooth and claw. They wear clothes because their skin cannot protect them from heat or cold. They are a species of tools and tricks, not true strength." More voices joined in. The debate grew louder. Some species seemed curious about humans, but many agreed with the Braktar and Velnari. Humans were too new, too different, too weak. Hyunwoo listened to it all with the same calm expression. He had expected this. Earth's intelligence services had warned him that many council species valued physical strength above all else. Diplomacy among the stars often came down to who could hit hardest and survive longest. The council arbiter finally called for order. The arbiter was not really alive in any way humans understood. It was pure energy, contained in a field of shimmering light that floated above the center of the hall. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The debate grows tiresome," the arbiter announced. "There is a simple solution to this question. The humans will face the trial of dominance." The hall fell silent. Even the whispers stopped. So Young grabbed Hyunwoo's arm, her face pale. "Commander, the trial of dominance is combat. Single combat. To the death or surrender. The rules are ancient and clear," the arbiter continued. "The challenging species must face a champion chosen by those who question their worthiness. Victory grants council membership. Defeat means exile from council space forever." Ambassador Kresh smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "The Braktar offer our greatest warrior as champion. Let the humans send their strongest fighter if they have one." A section of the floor began to glow, and from it rose a platform. On that platform stood something that made even the bravest council members step back. It was a Braktar, but not like Kresh. This one was built for war. The creature stood 3 meters tall, its forearms thick with muscle and scars. Bio-enhanced plates covered its natural armor. Weapons hung from every part of its massive frame. Plasma cannons, energy blades, gravity hammers, molecular disruptors. Each weapon alone could level a city block. "I am Gorth the Render," the champion announced, his voice like grinding metal. "I have killed warriors from 47 different species. I have never been defeated in single combat. I have crushed the strongest the galaxy has to offer." Gorth looked down at Hyunwoo and laughed. "And now they send me this tiny, soft creature. Is this some kind of joke?" The crowd waited. This was the moment when Earth would reveal its hidden weapon, its secret advantage. Perhaps the human would call for powered armor or energy shields or some terrible weapon of his own. Instead, Hyunwoo stepped forward. "I accept the challenge," he said quietly. The simple words fell into the silence like stones into still water. So Young stared at him in shock. "Commander, you cannot be serious. You are not a soldier. You are a diplomat." "And what weapons will you choose, little human?" Gorth asked, clearly amused. "What mighty tools will your weak species provide?" Hyunwoo looked up at the massive alien warrior. Then he began to remove his jacket, folding it carefully and setting it aside. He loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves. When he looked up again, something had changed in his eyes. They were still calm, but now there was depth there, like looking into a very deep, very still pool. "I choose to face you as I am," Hyunwoo said. The crowd stirred in confusion. Some aliens laughed. Others shook their heads in pity. The human had no weapons, no armor, no visible enhancements of any kind. He looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged diplomat in a business suit. "Impossible," Lady Vex whispered. "Surely they have some hidden advantage." But Hyunwoo stood there in his simple clothes, empty hands at his sides, facing down a warrior who could tear apart starships with his bare hands. The Arbiter's energy field pulsed. "The terms are accepted. The trial will begin in 1 hour. Both champions will be transported to the arena of testing. Victory goes to the last warrior standing or until one yields." As the crowd began to disperse, talking excitedly among themselves, So Young pulled Hyunwoo aside. "Sir, this is madness. Gorth has killed trained warriors wearing power armor. You are one man with no weapons." Hyunwoo smiled at her, the first real expression he had shown all day. "So Young, do you remember the Braktar ship we found 3 years ago?" She frowned, confused by the change of subject. "The exploration vessel with the failing life support? We rescued the crew. Yes. 47 Braktar warriors slowly dying in the dark between stars." Hyunwoo picked up his jacket and put it back on, straightening his tie. "They were so grateful when we saved them. They told us many interesting things about their species." He started walking toward the transport platform that would take him to the arena. "Sometimes, So Young, the most important thing is not how hard you can hit. Sometimes it is knowing exactly where to touch." As he stepped onto the platform, Hyunwoo looked back at the council hall one last time. Thousands of alien beings watched him, most expecting to see him die in the next hour. They saw a weak human, soft and helpless without his machines. They had no idea what they were really looking at. The platform began to glow, and Commander Hyunwoo disappeared, transported to face his trial. In 1 hour, the galaxy would learn something new about human strength. Something that had nothing to do with weapons or armor or technology. Something that started with a whisper instead of a shout. The transport platform stopped glowing, and Hyunwoo found himself standing in a place that did not seem real. The arena of trials was not built by any normal hands. It was created by the ancient technology of the first council races. A pocket of space that could become anything the trial required. Around him stretched a landscape of broken stone and twisted metal. Deep cracks split the ground, some so wide that Hyunwoo could not see the bottom. Tall spires of rock rose like fingers toward a sky that shifted between red and purple. In some places, the ground seemed normal. In others, Hyunwoo could feel, his body becoming lighter or heavier as gravity changed without warning. This was a place designed to test warriors. Every step could be dangerous. Every surface might hide a trap. The arena would push both fighters to their limits and only the strongest would survive. Above him, the air began to shimmer and flicker. Slowly, ghostly figures appeared floating in the sky. Thousands of them, representatives from every species in the council. They had come to watch the trial, their forms projected into the arena by the same ancient technology that created this pocket world. Hyunwoo could see Lady Vex among them, her crystal body catching the strange light. Ambassador Kresh floated. Nearby, his forearms crossed as he waited for the show to begin. Even the peaceful species had come to watch. This was history in the making. Either humanity would join the council, or they would be banished forever from civilized space. A sound like thunder made Hyunwoo turn around. Gorth the Render had arrived. The massive Braktar warrior stood on a platform of black stone 50 meters away. In the arena's strange light, he looked even more terrifying than before. His forearms moved as he began selecting weapons from the arsenal attached to his body. Each weapon was a masterpiece of destruction, crafted by species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. First, Gorth lifted a plasma cannon the size of a small vehicle. The weapon hummed with barely contained energy, its barrel glowing white-hot. One shot from it could melt through the armor of a battleship. He tested its weight, nodding with satisfaction. Next came a molecular disruptor, sleek and silver. This weapon did not just destroy its targets. It tore apart the very atoms that made up matter, reducing anything it touched to basic particles. Gorth attached it to his second arm with practiced ease. The third weapon was a gravity hammer, its head crackling with energy fields that could crush a tank into a marble-sized ball. The fourth was an energy blade that could cut through any known material. Each weapon alone could level a city. Together, they made Gorth into a walking force of destruction. The watching aliens murmured among themselves. Even the most warlike species were impressed by the display. This was not just a warrior. This was a living weapon, enhanced and trained to kill anything the galaxy could produce. Hyunwoo stood 50 meters away in his simple business suit. He had no weapons, no armor, no technological enhancements that anyone could see. His black hair moved slightly in the arena's strange wind. His hands hung loose at his sides. To the watching crowd, he looked like a sacrifice, not a fighter. Human. Gorth's voice boomed across the arena, echoing off the stone spires. I will give you one chance to surrender. Save yourself the pain of dying slowly. Your species can find some other way to beg for council membership. Hyunwoo did not answer immediately. Instead, he began to walk forward, his steps careful and measured. He tested each patch of ground before putting his full weight on it. He studied the way the light fell across the broken landscape. His dark eyes took in every detail of the arena, mapping safe paths and dangerous zones. Tell me, Gorth, Hyunwoo said as he walked, his voice carrying clearly despite being much quieter than the alien's roar. What does strength mean to your people? The question seemed to surprise the Braktar champion. He hefted his plasma cannon, pointing it in Hyunwoo's general direction. Strength is power, human. Strength is the ability to take what you want and destroy what opposes you. Strength is why the Braktar are feared across the galaxy. I see, Hyunwoo replied, still walking, slowly forward. He paused at the edge of a gravity well, feeling the pull of the altered space, then stepped carefully around it. And this has made your people happy? Gorth's laugh was like grinding metal. Happy? Happiness is for the weak. The strong take what they need. But some of the watching Braktar delegates shifted uncomfortably in their floating positions. Everyone in the council knew about the Braktar homeworld. It had been torn apart by civil wars for over 300 years. Different clans fought constantly for control, each one trying to prove they were the strongest. Cities burned while warriors battled over who had the right to rule. Hyunwoo seemed to sense their discomfort, though he never looked away from Gorth. Your homeworld has known peace for how long now? Peace is weakness, Gorth snarled, but there was less confidence in his voice. The strong do not need peace. The Arbiter's energy form appeared above the center of the arena, pulsing with rainbow light. Let the trial of dominance begin. Victory goes to the warrior who defeats his opponent through surrender or death. There are no other rules. Gorth raised his plasma cannon and fired. The blast lit up the entire arena like a miniature sun. Superheated gas screamed through the air, melting stone and metal wherever it passed. The beam carved a trench 3 meters wide and half a kilometer long through the arena floor. But Hyunwoo was not there anymore. The human had moved the instant before Gorth pulled the trigger, stepping smoothly to one side. He continued his careful walk forward, now angling toward a cluster of tall stone pillars. His movement was fluid, like water flowing around obstacles. Stand still and fight like a warrior, Gorth roared, swinging the plasma cannon in a wide arc. 3 more blasts tore through the air, each one missing Hyunwoo by centimeters. The human did not run. He did not dodge wildly or throw himself behind cover. Instead, he moved with purpose, each step planned, each motion economical. He seemed to know exactly where each blast would go before Gorth fired. Fighting requires 2 people who want to hurt each other, Hyunwoo said, his voice still calm as he slipped between 2 stone spires. I have no desire to hurt you, Gorth. The massive alien switched weapons, drawing his molecular disruptor. This weapon fired faster, sending streams of energy that turned solid matter into drifting particles. Gorth sprayed the weapon back and forth, trying to catch the elusive human. Stone pillars dissolved. Metal spires crumbled into dust. The very air seemed to sparkle as molecules broke apart and reformed. But Hyunwoo danced through it all, never quite where the next shot landed. Then you are a coward, Gorth bellowed, his forearms working to bring all his weapons to bear. You run, like prey instead of fighting like a predator. Hyunwoo paused in his movement, standing in plain sight for the first time since the trial began. Is that what you think this is? A hunt? For a moment, the two faced each other across the scarred arena floor. Gorth with his arsenal of destruction, Hyunwoo with his empty hands. The watching aliens held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I think, Hyunwoo said quietly, that you are afraid. The words hit Gorth like a physical blow. The great warrior staggered, his weapons wavering. The Braktar fear nothing. Everyone fears something, Hyunwoo replied, and now he began walking forward again, directly toward the massive alien. But your people have built your entire culture around hiding from that fear. You equate strength with the ability to destroy, because you are terrified of being destroyed yourselves. Gorth raised all 4 weapons, pointing them at the approaching human. Lies. Human lies and tricks. 3 years ago, Hyunwoo continued, still walking steadily forward, we found a Braktar, ship drifting dead in space. 47 of your people were dying slowly as their life support failed. They were warriors just like you, strong, proud, unafraid. The weapons in Gorth's hands began to shake slightly. What does this have to do with anything? Hyunwoo was close enough now that Gorth could have cut him down easily with any of his weapons, but something in the human's eyes, some deep, calm certainty, made the alien hesitate. They were crying, Gorth, Hyunwoo said softly. Your proud warriors were crying in the dark, calling out for their families, begging the empty space to save them. And when we arrived, when they saw our ship coming to help, do you know what they did? Gorth's grip on his weapons loosened slightly. In the floating crowd above, the Braktar delegates had gone very quiet. They wept with relief, Hyunwoo said, now standing just 10 meters from the towering alien. Because someone had come. Because they were not going to die alone in the cold between stars. Because even the strongest warriors in the galaxy sometimes need help. The arena fell completely silent except for the sound of Gorth's heavy breathing. The massive alien stared down at the small human, confusion replacing rage in his glowing red eyes. What are you? Gorth whispered. Hyunwoo smiled, and for the first time since the trial began, his expression was warm. I am someone who came when your people called for help, and I am someone who is not afraid of you. Then he took another step forward, moving within arm's reach of the deadliest warrior in known space. Gorth stared down at the human who stood just 3 meters away. This close, the difference in their size was almost comical. The Braktar warrior towered over Hyunwoo like a mountain over a pebble. His 4 massive arms could crush the human, without effort. His weapons could turn the small man into atoms in less than a second. But something was wrong. Something in the human's eyes, in his calm smile, in the way he stood without fear so close to death. It made Gorth hesitate when he should have struck immediately. "You speak of my people crying," Gorth said slowly, his voice lower now but still dangerous. "You think this makes them weak?" "No," Hyunwoo replied, his hands still empty and loose, at his sides. "I think it makes them honest. Fear is not weakness, Gorth. Fear is survival. Fear keeps you alive when everything else fails." The massive alien shifted his grip on his weapons. "Then why do you show no fear? Any sane being would be terrified standing this close to me." Hyunwoo tilted his head slightly, studying Gorth's face with curious eyes. "Who says I'm not afraid? My heart is beating very fast right now. My body is preparing to run or fight. Every human instinct I have is screaming at me to get away from you." Above them, the floating crowd of alien observers leaned forward. This was not the conversation they had expected from a trial of combat. "But you do not run," Gorth said, confusion growing in his voice. "No, I do not run, because being afraid and being controlled by fear are 2 different things." Hyunwoo took another, small step forward. "You're afraid too, Gorth, I can see it in your eyes." The great warrior's weapons came up instantly, all 4 arms bringing deadly force to bear on the human. "I fear nothing." "You fear that your strength is not enough," Hyunwoo said calmly, not even blinking as energy weapons hummed to life inches from his face. "You fear that someone somewhere might be stronger than you. You fear that everything you believe about power and dominance might be wrong." Gorth's trigger finger tightened. The plasma cannon began to glow brighter. "You will die for those words." "Perhaps," Hyunwoo agreed. "But first, let me show you something." What happened next was so fast that many of the watching aliens missed it completely. Hyunwoo moved not away from the weapons but toward them. His right hand swept up and across, touching the barrel of the plasma cannon just as Gorth fired. The massive energy blast went wide, scorching empty air 50 meters to the left. Before Gorth could adjust his aim, Hyunwoo had already moved again. This time he stepped inside the reach of the alien's 4 arms, his left hand touching a spot on Gorth's chest just below where his heart would be. For a moment that lasted forever, the 2 warriors stood frozen like dancers in an impossible pose. The human looked tiny next to the armored giant, his hand barely covering a patch of black chitin on Gorth's massive chest. Then Gorth staggered backward, his eyes wide with shock. "What did you do to me?" the alien warrior demanded, raising his weapons again. But something was wrong. His movements were clumsy now, uncoordinated. His 4 arms no longer worked together with perfect timing. Hyunwoo stepped back, giving the confused warrior space. "I touched a nerve cluster that your species shares with several others we have encountered. It disrupts the signals between your brain and your body for a short time. You will recover full function in a few minutes and there will be no permanent damage." The watching council members stirred with interest. Some whispered among themselves. This was not overwhelming technological superiority. This was not the crude brutality they associated with physical combat. This was something else entirely. Gorth swung his gravity hammer in a wide arc, but the weapon felt heavy and awkward in his grip. His timing was off by just enough to make his attacks miss their target. Hyunwoo moved like flowing water, always just beyond the reach of the clumsy strikes. "Impossible," Lady Vex whispered from her floating position above the arena. "How does a diplomat know Braktar anatomy well enough to disable a warrior?" Hyunwoo heard the question and looked up at the crystal being with that same calm smile. "The same way I know that Velnari crystal forms vibrate at specific frequencies when touched in certain patterns. The same way I know that Thakmor skin conducts heat differently in their northern and southern regions. The same way I know that Zephyrian gravity manipulation requires them to maintain a specific breathing rhythm." the representatives of each named species shifted uncomfortably. These were secrets, biological details that few outsiders ever learned. "You have been studying us," Ambassador Kresh growled from his position in the floating crowd. "No," Hyunwoo replied, easily avoiding another awkward swing from Gorth's energy blade. "We have been helping you." He began to walk in a slow circle, around the stumbling Braktar champion, speaking as much to the watching council as to his opponent. His voice remained soft, but somehow every being in the arena could hear him clearly. 4 years ago, a Velnari research station lost power. During a solar storm, their crystal forms began to crack in the cold. We were the first ship to respond to their distress call. Lady Vex's transparent form flickered with sudden memory. 3 years ago, the Braktar exploration vessel I mentioned before. 47. Warriors slowly suffocating in dead space. Gorth had stopped trying to attack. He stood swaying slightly, listening despite himself. 2 years ago, a Thakmor colony ship struck an asteroid field. Their hull was breached in 17 places. Families with children were losing atmosphere fast. 1 year ago, a Zephyrian diplomatic convoy was attacked by pirates. Their gravity manipulators were damaged, leaving them helpless in normal space. With each example, Hyunwoo's circle around Gorth grew smaller. His voice remained gentle, but there was power in it now. The power of truth. 6 months ago, a Corvan battle fleet was trapped in a gravity well when their engines failed. They were being pulled toward a black hole. He stopped walking and faced Gorth directly. The massive alien warrior was breathing heavily, his weapons hanging loose in his hands. "In every case," we responded. "We helped. We asked for nothing in return. We did not demand territory or trade agreements or military alliances. We simply did what needed to be done." "Why?" Gorth asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Because it was right," Hyunwoo said simply. "Because when someone calls for help, you help them. Because the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak." "But we are not weak," Gorth protested, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "No, you are not weak. But you were in trouble, and we were able to help. Strength and weakness are not permanent states, Gorth. Today you are strong, tomorrow you might need help. Today I need your understanding, tomorrow I might be able to help you." The arena had fallen completely silent. Even the energy beings that served as arbiters seemed to be listening intently. "That is why you know our anatomy," Gorth said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn in his red eyes. "You learned it while helping us. Your people told us many things while we worked to repair their ship," Hyunwoo confirmed. "They were grateful, and gratitude makes people want to share. They taught us about Braktar culture, your history, your biology. They showed us pressure points that warriors use to disable opponents without killing them." Gorth looked down at his own chest where Hyunwoo had touched him. "They taught you how to defeat us." "No," Hyunwoo said firmly. "They taught us how to stop a fight without anyone dying. There is a difference." The human spread his arms wide, completely defenseless once again. "I could have killed you just now, Gorth. That pressure point, if pressed differently, stops the heart instead of disrupting coordination. But I do not want to kill you. I do not want to defeat you. I want to understand you." Gorth stared at the small human for a long moment. His coordination was returning, his weapons feeling familiar in his hands again. He could end this trial with a single shot. He could prove Braktar superiority and send the humans away in disgrace. Instead, he asked, a question that surprised even himself. "What do you want to understand?" Hyunwoo's smile was warm and genuine. "I want to understand why the strongest warrior in the galaxy is afraid of being seen as weak. I want to understand why a people with such incredible power spend all their time fighting each other instead of building something beautiful together." The words hit Gorth like physical blows. He took a step backward, his weapons wavering. "I want to understand," Hyunwoo continued gently, "why you think strength and kindness cannot exist in the same person." In the floating crowd above, the Braktar delegates were very quiet. Their homeworld civil wars, The endless cycle of violence and revenge, the way their society tore itself apart in the name of proving strength. All of it suddenly seemed less like honor and more like waste. Gorth looked around the arena, seeing it clearly for the first time. The broken ground, the scarred walls, the weapons of destruction in his hands. All of it designed for one purpose, to determine who was stronger by seeing who could hurt the other more. What if, he said slowly, what if there was another way? To be strong? Hyunwoo nodded, understanding passing between them like electricity. That is exactly the right question, my friend. For the first time in his long career as a warrior, Gorth the Render began to lower his weapons. Gorth held his weapons lower now, but his massive hands still gripped them tightly. The great warrior looked confused, like someone waking from a long dream and finding the world different from what they remembered. Another way to be strong, he repeated slowly, tasting the words. What could that mean? Hyunwoo walked closer, his steps careful but unafraid. Tell me, Gorth, when was the last time your people worked together to build something instead of fighting to destroy it? The question hit the alien warrior like a punch to the chest. He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. His red eyes looked distant as he searched his memory. Gorth struggled with the words. The Braktar build weapons. We build fortresses. We build armies. All things meant for war, Hyunwoo observed gently. But what about homes? What about schools for your children? What about art, or music, or places where families can gather in peace? From the floating crowd above, Ambassador Kresh called down angrily. The human speaks nonsense. Art and music are weaknesses. They make warriors soft. But other Braktar delegates were shifting uncomfortably. Some of them were old enough to remember stories from their grandfathers, tales of a time before the endless civil wars when their people had created beautiful things. Gorth looked up at his own people, then back at Hyunwoo. There are old stories, he said quietly. My grandmother told me about crystal gardens that our people grew long ago, towers that sang in the wind, but those were from the weak times before we learned true strength. Were they weak? Hyunwoo asked. Or were they different? The human began to walk around the arena, pointing to the scarred walls and broken ground. Look at this place, Gorth. Look at what strength built here. Does it make you feel proud? Does it make you feel happy? Gorth looked around at the arena of trials. It was a place of destruction designed only to hurt and kill. The walls were black with old blast marks. The ground was torn apart by countless battles. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived here except pain and death. It makes me feel... Gorth paused, searching for words he had never used before. Empty. Empty, Hyunwoo repeated. Yes, I think that is exactly right. This place is strong in the way your people understand strength. It can destroy anything, but it cannot create anything, it cannot heal anything, it cannot make anything better than it was before. The massive warrior set down his gravity hammer, the heavy weapon clanging against the stone floor. What are you trying to tell me, human? Hyunwoo stopped walking and faced him directly. I am trying to tell you that your people are dying. The words fell into the arena like stones into still water. Even the floating observers fell silent. We are not dying, Gorth protested, but his voice lacked conviction. The Braktar are strong. We have survived for thousands of years. Surviving is not the same as living, Hyunwoo said softly. Yes, your warriors are strong, yes, your weapons are powerful, but how many Braktar children will grow up to be artists instead of soldiers? How many will choose to build instead of destroy? How many will even have the chance to choose? Gorth's other weapons began to lower as well. The questions were hitting him in places he had never examined before, places that hurt in ways he did not understand. On your homeworld right now, Hyunwoo continued, how many cities are burning? How many families are torn apart by war? How many children go to sleep afraid that tomorrow they might lose their parents to some clan battle over who has the right to rule? That is the way of strength, Gorth said. But the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. Is it? Hyunwoo asked. Or is it the way of fear? Above them, Lady Vex spoke up, her crystal voice ringing across the arena. The human makes an interesting point. The Braktar homeworld has been at war with itself for over 3 centuries. How is this strength if it prevents them from growing? From building, from creating anything lasting? Ambassador Kresh's forearms waved angrily. War makes us strong. Conflict tests our warriors and weeds out the weak. Does it? Hyun-woo looked up at the floating alien. Then why do your strongest warriors cry when they think they are going to die alone in space? Why do they call out for their families? Why? Do they beg the universe to save them? The Braktar delegates fell silent. The rescue of the exploration ship had been kept quiet, but everyone in their government knew about it. They knew about the proud warriors who had wept with relief when human ships arrived to help them. Gorth set down his molecular disruptor, the weapon joining his gravity hammer on the arena floor. You saved them, he said quietly. You could have let them die. Other species would have. But you came anyway. Of course we came, Hyun-woo replied as if the answer was obvious. They needed help. But we are your enemies, your rivals for council membership. It would have been easier for you if we were gone. Hyun-woo looked genuinely surprised. You are not our enemies, Gorth. You are people in trouble who needed help. That is all that mattered. The great warrior stared at the human for a long moment. I do not understand you. That is all right, Hyun-woo said with a gentle smile. Understanding takes time, but let me ask you something. When my people saved your exploration ship, how did it make you feel? Gorth thought about the report he had read, about 47 Braktar warriors pulled back from the edge of death by humans who asked for nothing in return. It made me feel grateful and confused and ashamed, Gorth finished, quietly. Ashamed that we had called humans weak when they showed strength we did not even understand. Hyun-woo nodded. That shame you feel, Gorth, that is not weakness. That is wisdom beginning to grow. The massive alien looked down at his remaining weapons, then back at the small human. What would happen if I put down all my weapons? What would happen if I stopped fighting? I do not know, Hyun-woo admitted. But I can tell you what would not happen. The universe would not end. The stars would not fall from the sky. You would still be Gorth, still be strong, still be worthy of respect. But without weapons, without the ability to destroy, what kind of strength would I have? Hyun-woo spread his arms wide, indicating himself. The same kind I have. The strength to help when help is needed. The strength to show mercy when mercy is called for. The strength to choose peace when peace is possible. Gorth looked around, the arena again, seeing it with new eyes. Then he looked up at the floating crowd of council members, at his own people watching from above. Finally, he looked back at Hyun-woo. You are unarmed, he said. Yes. You are alone. Yes. You are much smaller and weaker than me. In some ways, yes. But you are not afraid. Hyun-woo considered this carefully. I am afraid of many things, Gorth. I am afraid of failing my people. I am afraid of making the wrong choice. I am afraid that this trial will end with someone getting hurt who does not need to be hurt. But you are not afraid of me. No. Hyun-woo said simply. I am not afraid of you. Why? The human smiled, and in that smile was something Gorth had never seen before in any warrior's face. It was not the cold smile of someone who knew they could win a fight. It was not the cruel smile of someone who enjoyed causing pain. It was warm and kind and completely without malice. Because I know who you really are, Gorth the Render. You are not a monster. You are not a machine built only for destruction. You are a person who has been taught that strength means hurting others, and you believed it because everyone around you believed it too. Gorth's grip on his remaining weapons loosened even more. But now you have a choice, Hyun-woo continued. You can keep believing what you have always believed, or you can choose to be something new, something your people have never seen before. What would that be? A Braktar warrior who chooses not to fight. The words hung in the air like a challenge and a promise all at once. Around the arena, the watching aliens held their breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. Gorth looked down at his hands, at the weapons that had defined his entire life. Then he looked at Hyunwoo, standing defenseless and unafraid just a few meters away. Slowly, very slowly, the greatest warrior in Braktar history began to set down his remaining weapons. The plasma cannon fell from Gorth's hands with a heavy thud that echoed across the silent arena. The energy blade followed, its humming power dying as it hit the stone floor. One by one, the weapons that had made him the most feared warrior in known space joined the growing pile at his feet. Above them, the floating crowd of alien observers watched in stunned silence. This was not how trials of dominance were supposed to end. Warriors fought until one yielded or died. They did not have philosophical discussions and set down their weapons voluntarily. Ambassador Kresh's voice boomed down from the watching crowd. "What are you doing, Gorth? Pick up your weapons, end this farce, show the galaxy what Braktar strength truly means." But Gorth did not move to reclaim his arsenal. Instead, he stood looking at his empty hands as if seeing them for the first time. Without weapons, they looked different somehow. Less like instruments of destruction and more like tools that could build, or help, or heal. "I have been strong in the old way for my entire life," he said quietly, speaking more to himself than to anyone else. "I have won every battle, defeated every enemy, conquered every challenge, but I have never built anything. I have never created anything. I have never made anything better." Hyunwoo stepped closer, his movements still careful but no longer wary. "It is not too late to start, is it not?" Gorth looked up at the floating crowd, at his own people watching from above. "I am Gorth the Render. I am known across 40 systems as a killer. How does someone like me learn to be something else?" "The same way anyone learns anything," Hyunwoo replied with a gentle smile. "One day at a time, one choice at a time, one act of kindness at a time." The massive alien warrior looked down at the human who barely reached his chest. "You really believe that, don't you? You believe that people can change?" "I believe that people can choose," Hyunwoo corrected. "Every moment, every decision, every word we speak is a choice. You chose to set down your weapons. That was the first step." From somewhere in the floating crowd, Lady Vex's crystal voice rang out clear and musical. "This is unprecedented. The trial was for strength, not philosophy. How do we judge a battle that was won with words instead of weapons?" The council arbiter's energy form pulsed brighter, drawing attention from across the arena. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The trial was indeed for strength, the arbiter agreed. But strength takes many forms. Physical power is only one type. There is also the strength of will, the strength of wisdom, and the strength of character. The energy being's light shifted, focusing on both warriors standing in the center of the scarred arena floor. The human demonstrated the strength to face overwhelming odds without losing his composure. The strength to show mercy when he could have shown cruelty. The strength to choose understanding over domination. Now the light focused solely on Gorth, and the Braktar champion demonstrated perhaps the greatest strength of all. The strength to admit he was wrong. The strength to change his mind when faced with new truth. The strength to choose a different path when the old one led only to emptiness. Murmurs swept through the watching crowd. Some species called for the trial to continue, demanding a proper fight with a clear winner. Others seemed thoughtful, considering the arbiter's words. But Ambassador Kresh was not satisfied. His forearms gestured angrily as he spoke. "This is madness." The human used tricks and manipulation. He confused our champion with clever words. "This is not strength, it is deception." "Is it?" Hyunwoo looked up at the angry Braktar delegate. "Then tell me, Ambassador, what did I say that was not true?" Kresh fell silent, his red eyes glowing with frustration. "I spoke about the rescue of your exploration ship. That happened. I spoke about your homeworld civil wars. They are happening. I spoke about children growing up in fear. They are." Hyunwoo's voice remained calm, but there was steel in it now. "Which part was deception?" "You made him weak," Kresh accused. "You turned a warrior into something soft and useless." Gorth looked up sharply at his own ambassador. When he spoke, his voice carried a new kind of authority, different from the raw power he had wielded before. "I am not weak," he said firmly. "I am still strong. I am still fast. I still know how to fight. But now I also know when not to fight. That is not weakness, Ambassador, that is wisdom." The great warrior stepped closer to where Hyunwoo stood. "I have spent my life believing that strength meant the ability to destroy anything that opposed me. But this human showed me something I had never considered. He showed me that true strength might be the ability to create, to heal, to make things better instead of worse." Gorth looked around the arena one more time, taking in the blast marks and broken stone, the evidence of countless battles fought for no purpose but to prove who was stronger. "I'm tired of this place," he said quietly. "I am tired of fighting for the sake of fighting. I am tired of being strong in a way that makes everyone around me weaker." He turned to face Hyunwoo directly, and when he spoke again, his voice carried across the entire arena. "I yield." The two words fell into the silence like stones into deep water. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The very air seemed to hold its breath. Then the arena erupted in chaos. Some aliens cheered, others protested loudly. Arguments broke out between different species about what had just happened and what it meant. But in the center of it all, two figures stood quietly, facing each other. The massive Braktar warrior and the small human diplomat, no longer enemies, no longer opponents, but something new. "What happens now?" Gorth asked. Hyunwoo extended his hand. "Now we see what we can build together." Gorth looked down at the offered hand for a long moment. In Braktar culture, touching hands was a sign of deep trust, reserved for family members and closest friends. It was not something done lightly, but these were not light times. The great warrior reached out with one of his massive hands and gently grasped Hyunwoo's much smaller one. The council arbiter's voice cut through the chaos of the crowd. "The trial of dominance is concluded. Victory goes to the human delegation through the voluntary surrender of their opponent. Humanity is granted membership in the Galactic Council." More cheers and protests erupted from the watching aliens, but Gorth and Hyunwoo ignored them all. They stood in the center of the ancient arena, hands clasped, looking at each other with something approaching understanding. "I have a question," Gorth said. "Ask it." "My people, the Braktar, we have been fighting ourselves for so long that we have forgotten how to stop. Could humans help us remember?" Hyunwoo's smile was warm and genuine. "We would be honored to try. It will not be easy. We are a proud people, set in our ways. Many will resist change. All good things are difficult," Hyunwoo replied, "but that does not mean they are impossible." Above them, the floating crowd was beginning to disperse, the various species returning to their own sectors to discuss what they had witnessed. But the Braktar delegates remained, watching their greatest warrior stand hand in hand with the human who had defeated him without throwing a single punch. "Gorth," Ambassador Kresh called down, his voice less angry now but still confused. "What, do we tell the clans back home? How do we explain what happened here?" The great warrior looked up at his people, still holding Hyunwoo's hand. "We tell them the truth, Ambassador. We tell them that we found a new kind of strength, and we ask them if they want to be strong in a new way too." As the arena began to fade around them, dissolving back into the energy that had created it, Gorth had one final question. "What you did here today, speaking instead of fighting, choosing understanding over victory, does your species have a name for this kind of strength?" Hyunwoo thought for a moment, then smiled. "We call it being human." The arena disappeared, taking them back to the council chambers where this had all begun. But something fundamental had changed. Not just for humanity, which had won its place among the stars, but for the entire galaxy. Word would spread of the trial where a whisper had proven stronger than a weapon, where wisdom had triumphed over force, where two very different beings had found common ground in the most unlikely place. And in the years that followed, when species faced conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve, they would remember the day when a human diplomat and a Braktar warrior chose to build instead of destroy. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the furthest. Sometimes the gentlest touch moves the heaviest stone. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is whisper when the whole universe expects you to shout. This is what it means to be human. This is what it means to be strong.